let's try this one more time. So this is going to be a really long game between Henneky and MajiinBae, which you can see here is between Diana, Aphelios Invoke, not Invoke, Nightfall with an extra 3 star shapings, 1 Atrocity, 1 Vengeance, so it is going to be slower, and versus MajiinBae's Lysandra Trundle, and as you can see exactly what happened in the first 3 rounds. Obviously there was Duskbringer turn to attack, etc. Here on round 3 you can see Lysandra into Stalking Shadows, which misses, but you know, such is fate. And now in this position there was a spectator bug where Fight Night had to exit and re-enter. So what happened while it was down was Henneky plays Dusk Petal plus Aphelios, MajiinBae plays Blighted Ravine, Henneky plays Crescendum, in which gives Sky Shadows, refills 2 spell mana, and then plays Unto Dusk on his Aphelios, which generates 2 moon weapons because of Unto Dusk, as well as playing 2 cards with Aphelios on the board. So that allows him to generate both moon weapons, and also MajiinBae did not block, which means he took 8 damage from the attack. Blighted Ravine healed him to 20, so he goes down to 12 health, and then Blighted Ravine dealt another 2 damage, so MajiinBae ends up at 10 health, as you can see in this position, right before when they re-entered the spectator and right before the game loaded, right here in this position. So this is what happened after everything I mentioned, and as you can see, Henneky has 2 moon weapons. He plays the Temple and then Crescendum, which refills 2 spell mana, and his Sky Shadows after the Temple refilled the I'll just play it. You'll see. So he plays Temple, Crescendum, which refills 2 spell mana, Calibrum, which triggers Temple and gives 2 normal mana, and then plays the Sky Shadows with his 2 normal mana. So yeah, as you can see, all of these cards are played. And now in this position, what would you do? Well, you see that you have Dianas, which you want to play before attacking. You want to trigger the Nightfall. The only way you can trigger Nightfalls is by playing Star Shaping. So the logical conclusion is to play Star Shaping plus Diana. Your Diana will level up and become a 3/3 because right now Diana is 3 out of 4. Unto Dusk gives 2 triggers because it is a Nightfall card and it triggers a Nightfall card, and Aphelios gave another trigger because it's Nightfall. And so if you don't know, if you play a Nightfall Diana that's 3 out of 4, it levels up and becomes a 3/3 with Challenger because it gives itself Challenger and then levels up. If you play it at 4 out of 4, it levels up and then triggers the Nightfall, which makes it a 5/3. Either way, this becomes a 3/3 Diana, which is perfect. You can pull the Lysandra, you trigger the Temple, you get a 5/3, you threaten 8 damage, you might force out Ruination, you're happy with that. And then if they, instead of playing Ruination, play something like Whale or something to kill your 3/1, you can play Diana's Pale Cascade instead of a normal Pale Cascade, because Diana is a little bit better as a Pale Cascade in positions like this. And now what happens is, because he doesn't play it before the attack, the opponent happily plays a Whale, and then he ends up having to play Star Shaping anyway to trigger the Nightfall, just to play the Pale Cascade and save the Sky Shadow from the Whale. So in the end, he had to play those cards anyway, and I mean, without getting the extra threat of attacking with Diana, which is kind of mediocre, all things considered. So now you can see he ends up playing Diana anyway after attacking. Maybe he was scared of Ruination, but Ruination to kill Diana and the Sky Shadows is not all that impressive. And now the opponent plays a Trundle, and in this position, when I first saw this, was tempted to save the Star Shaping as a Nightfall trigger for the Pale Cascade next round, so you could pull the Trundle. On the other hand, the benefit of playing Star Shaping now is that you can get a Mortal Fire. And I didn't actually think of this, but Mr. Invoke Enthusiast, Jordan, told this to me, and I said, fair enough, you play Star Shaping now because a Mortal Fire instantly wins you the matchup. And so, Jordan actually proposed you play Pale Cascade now just for the Temple trigger, but I do prefer saving the Pale Cascade so you can trigger Diana and pull the Trundle more than I care about getting the Temple trigger. And fortunately, he did get a Nightfall trigger, which is very likely because he has so many in his deck. And so now you obviously, you do let the Trundle level up, but it was, it was inevitable. Unless you save the Star Shaping last round. But it's not that great of an attack either way. You're not too enthused about this. So now you definitely play the Pale Cascade on the flight. And then it buffs the Diana. You pull to a 6/4 because of Temple and her ability. You pull the Trundle. Your flight connects with Face as a 3/2, which makes them immune to pings. And then, I mean, everything is happy. However, Henneky does not go for the Pale Cascade here, which I'm not sure why, but what happens instead is sorry, I skipped for too much. He pulls the pillar with the Diana and saves the Pale Cascade. I'm not sure why. This just allows your Diana's not gonna block better than it's going to attack. I did mention this in the previous video. If you have a bad trade blocking, but an even trade at worst attacking, I don't know why you wouldn't. You would not take the attack and then have to block with it anyway. So obviously the Doom Beast is good because it gives you the block on the Babbling Beard. Normally Babbling Beard would tutor Ledros, but because the Trundle is leveled, it becomes 5 attack and they got a Trundle from it, which is also fine because pillars are really good. Pillars will level up the Lysandra and give you the 0-cost Watcher, and in this position, he's okay with his Trundles dying because he wants to replay Trundles as Trundles more than he wants to replay them as Icequakes, because Icequakes, even though they cost 8, they are not units, which means they don't trigger Watcher counters. So now he gets the trade on the Trundle, but he has to pay his Hush for it instead of just the Pale Cascade, and also his Diana takes 5 damage for no reason. Well, 4 damage technically, since one of the health points is temporary. But I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't just play the Pale Cascade last round and pull the Trundle, and then you could have just happily played the Great Beyond. And if they have something like an Ice Shard Vengeance, your Diana would have health, and you can play a new spell shielded Great Beyond next round and see if they have it all over again. But now he avoids playing the Great Beyond because he doesn't want them to break the spell shield and deal with the Great Beyond on the same turn. But I mean, so we go into the next round, and now when he plays the Great Beyond, they only have 13 mana to deal with it. You do have the option of playing the Flight plus Pale Cascade into the Great Beyond, and with the Pale Cascade on the Flight, and you get to trigger the Temple before playing Great Beyond. And this means that if they play something like Whale or Ice Shard plus Vengeance, your Diana survives, your Flight survives against the trigger. You get the Pale Cascade as well as a bonus, so you can also get the Challenger as a bonus. But he just plays this was in I'm not saying that was necessarily the best play, but it was in the position and I preferred. Now, to be clear, if he simply played the Pale Cascade when attacking on the Diana, the Diana would have 5 health, and this would just be way better. Anyway, so they play the Whale, and now you obviously use Pale Cascade to save the Diana, which perfectly normal. Now, there are going to be some more questionable moments upcoming, but here the Frozen Thrall triggers, and there's a Frostguard Thrall, I believe it's called, and you just have to play your new Great Beyond to block the Frostguard Thrall with most probably Pale Cascade or something to trigger the Temple and save your Great Beyond in the trade. Now, however, because they play Avalanche here, which is good, you want to play the Avalanche over your Ice Shards because your Ice Shards is fast speed. It's a little more flexible. They might have Pale Cascade to save Diana anyway, and you'll have to Avalanche, and you won't even be able to react with an Avalanche. So, well, I guess because he has the attack token, it actually doesn't matter, but he doesn't have the mana to play both, and he wants to kill the Diana here. He wants to break the spell shield. It's just good and clean to use your 4 mana slow spell rather than your 3 mana fast spell because it's more valuable. Anyways, because they played the Avalanche, Henneky does get an extra slow action, so he can use the Flight rather than the Pale Cascade to trigger the Temple, so that he can commit Pale Cascade for it as a combat trick later. Now, obviously, Trundle goes up to 9 attack, so you block the 8 attack unit with your 9 health unit. This goes without saying. Okay, the trade goes through. The Fury triggers, which gives the Great Beyond an extra health, which is very important. Now, in this position, you should absolutely open attack. You have Unto Dusk plus Pale Cascade to save the Great Beyond from any tricks. This is just a great open attack. Henneky doesn't open attack. And I'm not too sure why. Now, I think it's because he was afraid of the Watcher and he wanted to see if he could get an Equinox. That's normal. It's very human to say, I want to look for a card, so I'm going to look for it. But you still have to remember your principles. You open attack and then look for it. That's how it should work. Obviously Equinox is for the Watcher, and now it does allow MajiinBae to Ruination. Now, I think Icequake was a bit better, because it saves, well, first of all, your Trundle does survive, which isn't necessarily an upside. This is true, because you want to be able to play your other Trundles so you can get your other Ice Pillars, so your Watcher becomes 0 mana rather than reshuffling your Trundle. However, MajiinBae, however, I prefer the Icequake because your opponent, Henneky, still has essentially 8 unit mana to develop units with. And you're going to tank that damage because you're not going to have a blocker. Whereas you could have had your Trundle and it would have been a bit better. I prefer the Icequake. Ruination is fine because it preserves your other Trundle, which is valuable. And now, obviously, you already have your Equinox. You definitely want to pick the Messenger. You want to cycle a bit, find a bit more value. The Messenger is just better. The other options, Moonglow Spell Shield is really mediocre. Their hard removal is fast. A lot of their hard removal is fast speed. They have good Spell Shield breakers with Vile Feast, Ice Shards, etc. So it just makes sense to pick the Messenger, obviously. And now here, MajiinBae takes the Revitalizing Roar on the Trundle for the 5 health. Now, I think you do kind of want to save Roar. You can set up larger turns for when you have the Watcher or Ledros specifically. So you can, for example, use Revitalizing Roar on Ledros, maybe even wait a turn so you have 13 mana and it's 0 mana Ledros. So you can start doing some good things, but he uses the Roar because he's afraid the board is kind of scary, and if he doesn't have any units, so if he doesn't play the Roar now and doesn't draw well, he's just gonna start kind of get beat down, and he's gonna be in a lot of danger. Now, to be clear, if he just draws like that, I'm pretty sure the game's just over anyway. But you know, it makes sense. I understand why he did it. Now here, Henneky wants to set up an open attack, and also he wants to force MajiinBae to attack so that he can trade off this Fangs, kill the Trundle, kill their only blocker, you know, Gravitum the Ice Pillar, and set up a strong open attack. Now, here, I prefer using Unspeakable Horror over the Pale Cascade because Pale Cascade can be used to save a unit. Generating a random Nightfall unit is almost as good as drawing a card. You know, you see what you get. Henneky goes for the Pale Cascade, which is fine, but you know, I do prefer Unspeakable Horror. He does draw the Temple. He should play the Temple after this. I don't know why he doesn't play the Temple, but he chooses to not play the Temple and focus on setting up the open attack by playing Gravitum. So he sets up the open attack and doesn't play Temple, and in this position, obviously, you open attack. What Henneky does is he sets up the open attack and doesn't play the temple, and then plays the temple instead of open attacking, which confuses me to no end. I can't find a good reason for this. Now, in this position, MajiinBae does not Ruination. He probably thinks of it as a bluff or something and says, if I Ruination, maybe he'll fuck me up. He does have 3 sisters if Henneky plays something large, but I guess he was scared of something. Now, in this position, Henneky attacks, and he should play the Unspeakable Horrors on MajiinBae's Nexus. It triggers the temples, and these Unspeakable Horrors are basically 2 Nexus damage. It gives the Aphelios an extra 2 buffs. Unspeakable Horrors is just never gonna get more value than that. It's just not. He draws another temple. He should play it. I don't know why he doesn't play it. He does get the buffs. He still gets the Aphelios buffs, which is important. But he could have got an extra buff by playing the 3rd temple. I don't know why he didn't. He also should have... Also, MajiinBae should be at 4 health because they should have played the Unspeakable Horrors while it did 2 damage to the Nexus. So, to be clear, just as a recap, Aphelios should have 1 extra buff. And now, he plays the Flight and still doesn't play his 3rd temple. I don't know why, but here he misses out on the 3rd temple's buff. Aphelios should now have 2 more buffs, and he misses out on it completely. I don't know why. And now in this position, you obviously take the open attack. You don't have good develop. So he open attacks, and MajiinBae harsh wins, which is obvious. I mean, MajiinBae doesn't have any other options. Well, actually, they did have one other option, and that was to use 3 sisters as a flash freeze, but there's no real benefit to that. You're not saving your mana for anything, and Harsh Winds is just a 6 mana flash freeze, whereas 3 Sisters is a 4 mana flash freeze with the possibility of doing some other things. Now, Henneky plays the Watcher now because, well, he wanted to play around Hush and Moonlight Affliction. If he played it next round and Henneky had Equinox, they could use 3 Sisters as a Entomb, which you saw in the previous video, to dodge the Equinox and then open attack to dodge Hush and Moonlight Affliction in 2 rounds. The only problem with this is that MajiinBae has been playing from behind. He doesn't have good board presence, and he doesn't know if he'll be able to survive until then. So instead of allowing Henneky to survive for 2 rounds from the Watcher with Hush or Moonlight Affliction, he said, I'm going to allow you to have Equinox from the 1 Fangs, which you didn't reveal, and say, if you don't have Equinox, I win the game, which is a very good decision considering how behind he is. It's a risk he had to take, but Henneky had Equinox, and we return to Henneky's perspective, and here we'll see that he finally plays the 3rd temple. We missed out on 2 buffs. So MajiinBae plays the Ledros first. This is good because the fleeting Ice Shards doesn't do any Nexus damage if you play it first. Whether you play the Ice Shards or not, Ledros will bring Henneky's Nexus health down to 9. And now, here Henneky makes... So, you can see here he plays the Inferno. The Aphelios should have 10 health right now. It should be a 12-10. And when he triggers the Temples this turn, it should go up to 13 health. And it would survive this trade. His Aphelios now dies. We lost it for no reason. We just didn't develop the 3rd Temple for 2 turns and lost 2 buffs. And our Aphelios for no reason. And now, another misplay, you see that MajiinBae has a leveled up Lysandra, which makes their Nexus tough. We have the Moonlight Affliction to Ledros to allow us to block, or else we're dead. We silence the Watcher instead of the Ledros. And now, when we play the Doom Beast, we drain one less from their Nexus and take one more damage for no reason. This is going to be important because Henneky is... Later on in the game, if Henneky had one less health on the Nexus, Henneky would have lost. Now, in this position, Henneky should Unspeakable Horror on the Ledros so that it dies to the Calibrum. Now, to be completely clear, he should have done it later on. He should play the Calibrum first, not right away. Probably play the Doom Beast and then the Calibrum and then the Unspeakable Horror on the Ledros if they don't play the Ice Shards. I don't know why we played Unspeakable Horror here. It makes no sense. I don't know why we didn't target the Ledros. It just means that if they don't play the Ice Shard, what happens is that the Ledros gets unsilenced, and then by the time we kill it, it's going to be, alive, or it's gonna trigger its last breath, last gasp, last breath. Here you take Golden Sister. I don't know why you would take anything but the Golden Sister here. The elusive attacker is enormous. I don't know. And now MajiinBae plays the Ice Shard. I don't know why. I mean, he has Calibrum if you check. Maybe, to be fair, this is a really long game. Maybe MajiinBae didn't check what Henneky phased into. That would be fair. But it was available information, and he knows there's a Calibrum, and he allows his Ledros to die while silenced. This shouldn't have happened, but now again, this Doom Beast is terrible. You want to play Diana next round. You have 2 board space and 4 units. You want to kill the Lysandra. I don't know why you would play the Doom Beast. This is a terrible play. Now, again, remember this should be Golden Sister, and this Doom Beast shouldn't be here. You play the Duskbringer, you play Diana, you pull the Lysandra, your bird gets +3/+3. It threatens lethal. They have to do something. Your Lysandra is gonna die. I mean, also you can pull the Diana, you can pull the Lysandra before the bird attack, so they lose tough. So, it's just I don't know why he picked the Serpent. I don't know why he played the Doom Beast last round. You play it after the Diana attacks, your 2/1 trades, whatever, stuff like that. He's not respecting the Lysandra at all. It's generating these Ice Shards. These Ice Shards are tremendous. You have a bunch of 1 health units. I mean, and now because of Blighted Ravine, he has to play the second Doom Beast so that he doesn't tank the damage from Lysandra's attack. If you take the attack from this Lysandra, you just die. For sure. Unless you vengeance the Lysandra, which at this point you might even should do, because Lysandra generates so much value. Jordan says he respects Lysandra enough to vengeance it, which is why he would play Diana. The Diana goes without saying. The vengeance just shows how much Jordan respects it. He wants to save vengeance for an atrocity, which makes sense because it's an atrocity deck. But anyways, MajiinBae should play the fleeting Ice Shard here. If we go back a few seconds, because it's not synced, MajiinBae should definitely play this Ice Shard. There's no reason not to. Well, it stops at that. There's just no reason not to. And again, as I said before, Henneky is going to be 1 health away from losing, and that Ice Shard would have made the difference. Of course, that only matters because Henneky misplayed and missed the drain one on the Nexus with the Doom Beast. But given that, what I'm trying to say is it mattered. It's not that it always will matter. This is 1 Ice Shard. It's 1 health. It's not always going to matter, but it's good practice. And in this specific game, it did matter. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying, look how bad it is, he got punished for it. I'm just saying. as an example of the fact that it's bad, I can demonstrate to you that he got punished. Now, in this position, MajiinBae should probably Ruination. It is a pretty threatening attack, but perhaps he was saying, if Henneky has a large unit that with spell, a star shaping, I'm gonna lose. But if Henneky has a star shaping, he's MajiinBae, you're probably gonna lose anyway. You should Ruination here to be safe. Now Jordan proposed the second play, which only works if you don't Ruination. If you don't Ruination, then you wait until they attack, and then you can Atrocity the Lysandra plus Ice Shard, and then when they Vengeance or use their own Atrocity, you respond with Flash Freeze with the Three Sisters. This is possible too. But Henneky, from Henneky's perspective, after MajiinBae passed and didn't Ruination, you should attack. I mean, I guess he's afraid of Harsh Winds, but this is not the worst Harsh Winds that happens. You probably have to Vengeance the Lysandra, but I mean, I guess I can kind of understand why he played the Flight. He was scared of Harsh Winds, but I mean, Harsh Winds is still gonna be good. If they had it does make Harsh Winds a little worse, but they could play Harsh Winds plus the Ice Shard. It's just not. It's not really a safe Flight. It's not the worst. It's okay. I mean, the Flight wants to hit the Nexus. It's not the worst. I personally slightly prefer the Ruination right away, and I personally also prefer attacking right away after the non-Ruination. But it's not the worst play we've seen by either player. By a long shot. It's at most a small inaccuracy. So here we start shaping, and now there is Great Beyond. And so as you'll see, Henneky has 8 health. If based on the things that happened differently, Henneky could have been at 9 health, and then MajiinBae could have reduced it down to 8, or given the current 8 health, MajiinBae could have reduced it down to 7, which will be relevant later. But right now, Henneky has the option of playing Dusk Petal plus the Great Beyond. But this is his last Star Shaping. He probably wanted to wait until he drew Atrocity. There's only 5 cards left in his deck. 6 cards left in his deck. So I guess it's not so bad to wait. So here he plays the Diana, because he wants to save the Great Beyond until he has the attack token, so that MajiinBae has 13 mana total to deal with both the Spell Shield, the attack, as well as maybe an Atrocity, while he has temples to recover his mana. So here, Henneky is really scared because he doesn't have his Atrocity. He doesn't have his answer. He has answer to 1 Atrocity. If MajiinBae has 2 Atrocities, Henneky doesn't have the third and last Unspeakable Horror to survive. He has no other forms of healing left in his deck. 1 Unspeakable Horror, and that's it. MajiinBae also knows this, but while Henneky has 13 mana, if MajiinBae goes for lethal, he could lose to any Nightfall trigger plus Atrocity plus Vengeance, because right now, if Henneky passes and then MajiinBae plays Atrocity, he would have the Vengeance, and if MajiinBae plays the second Atrocity, he could, in theory, play Dusk Petal plus Unto Dusk, which would give Diana 7 attack and go up to 10 attack total, and then Atrocity. Now, MajiinBae doesn't know that he doesn't have the Atrocity, but just saying. Right now, Henneky is down to 4 cards in deck. So that's Stalking Shadows. It's not great, but it's, useless. But MajiinBae doesn't know that. And now now that Henneky used the third Onto Dusk, it's actually really difficult for Henneky to counter the double Atrocity without the Unspeakable Horror. And now if Henneky had the Unspeakable Horror, it would be really bad for Majin. He would just die to the attack. So Majin wants to wait until Henneky attacks before he does anything crazy. He wants to see what Henneky has up his sleeve, which is fair. And Henneky plays the Great Beyond because he has to threaten something. And so, in this position, Henneky goes down to 8 mana for the last time. He will never go low on mana ever again. That's why MajiinBae should go for the double atrocity. The only possible way Henneky survives the double atrocity is with atrocity to counter the first atrocity, and then unspeakable horror to counter the second atrocity. There is no other way. And if or in the other order. It doesn't matter what order you do it. But if he waits, Henneky has 3 cards left in the deck. Right? If he waits, Henneky will only have time to draw more of his only answers, which includes Vengeance, Atrocity, Hush. And when I say Hush answers a Frostbite on the attack. If he attacks, Majin has to deal with the attack, and then when he deals with the attack with a Frostbite, for example, Henneky can Hush the Frostbite, and then Majin has to deal with the attack again with a Vengeance or an Atrocity, and Henneky can counter that with an Atrocity with his own Vengeance, and you have a war on the stack. But Henneky will always have the advantage on the stack in terms of mana because he has 3 temples. And also, Henneky can attack first before the stack starts, and Majin has to react. Majin cannot do that because Henneky's large unit has Elusive and Spell Shield. So Henneky automatically has an advantage when the stack starts. What that means is that Majin will never get a better opportunity to go for Atrocity Lethal than now. He should Atrocity right now, simply because while Henneky could have Unspeakable Horror and Atrocity, if Henneky does, Majin will not win in 2 rounds when Henneky has all of those options, plus whatever he draws, which is whatever he has left in his deck, plus an extra 11 mana. Right now, Henneky has 8 mana. He goes up to 19 mana. That's why Majin should do it now. The simple case is it doesn't get better for him. Maybe Majin is thinking for, I don't know, Fatigue, where Henneky is out of cards, but he's going to have to survive a killer stack where Henneky is going to have access to every card in his deck, basically, except for 1. And it's not going to, and 19 mana, and it's not going to end well for Majin. Now, this is the only, I would say, major misplay by Majin. There were definitely a number of misplays by Henneky, specifically with not playing Temple, not open attacking, not triggering the Nightfalls before attacking, and not, stuff like that. Just, Henneky's, I guess, misplays weren't really critical moments. They were more bad practices. Now, Majin did go for the Ice Shard, which makes sense. He wanted to break the Spell Shield so that when he Atrocities now, if Henneky counters with his own Atrocity, Majin gets the Vengeance. But the problem is, he doesn't get to play 2 Atrocities and Vengeance in the same turn because he doesn't have 3 temples. Henneky can do everything he wants in one turn. Majin has to start the stack, and he can only play 2 cards. Henneky, while he only needs to play 2 cards, he now has the Vengeance and Atrocity, so he's always going to win on the stack now. And he was going to draw Atrocity sooner or later, and Majin gave him more chances to do that. Because as you can see, Majin can't attack and force Henneky to respond like Henneky can. Man, I have said their names so many times in the past 30 minutes. Their names don't even sound right to me anymore. And so, again, now it is clear, to be clear, right now, Henneky is on his last attack token. He has one card left in his deck. If he doesn't have lethal this round, he will lose. But he has all the cards in his deck, all the mana he could ask for, and Majin can only play 2 cards. So he will attack, he will win the stack, and Majin will have nothing he can do about it because Henneky's unit is elusive and he has less mana. And so now with the Hush, as you can see, Henneky still has 16 mana up his sleeve, while Majin can only play 1 card, and Henneky will be able to answer it on the stack. Now, again, if MajiinBae did 1 more damage to Henneky all those turns ago, 5 rounds ago, and got Henneky down to 7 health before last round where he played Ice Shard, over here, back then, when he passed with the fleeting Ice Shard, he would have won because Double Atrocity was guaranteed lethal and Henneky had no possible way to deal with it. Another thing is the moment where he... Actually, I think aside from those 2 moments, MajiinBae basically played pretty reasonable. Like, I would have preferred the Ice Quake a little, but it was debatable. Aside, like, those 2 were the only moments where I think there were distinct mistakes. Everything else was good play. And also, by Henneky, obviously Henneky is a good player, but there was a lot of inaccuracies in this game. Just bad practices, really. Nothing like, oh my god, you just belong in bronze. Just, bad habits, bad practices. He could have done a lot of small things better. There weren't really like major critical moments, but he did miss out on a lot of small advantages he could have grinded out. And if he didn't make any mistake, then Majin never would have had a single window of opportunity to even win the game. Henneky just had better cards dealt to him. Probably the matchup is generally favored as well. If he got a Mortifier at any time, he would have just won the game. The draws he got were pretty good, but if he worked with it perfectly, Majin never would have had a chance. But anyways, this was a really, really long video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you guys don't like it. I'm just not gonna do these long ones again. It's my throat is giving out already. I actually had to record this like 3 times because, well, other issues. Anyways, let me know. Thanks for watching, and this was requested to me a few times, but have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time.